Family caregivers have long been shown to experience greater stress and poorer health relative to non-caregivers. However, the majority of this work has focused on individuals caring for older relatives. We were interested in addressing this gap in the literature by exploring different caregiving contexts. Parents, for example, are at particularly increased risk for adverse health outcomes as a result of their caregiving role. For example, they're often coping with unique stressors like coordination of care and uncertainties about the prognosis of their child's condition and its developmental consequences. So our first research question was, is there a difference in the experiences of caregiver burden and caregiver distress among parent caregivers across 3 contexts? We looked specifically at parents caring for a child with an inherited metabolic condition, which we show here in red, parents caring for a child with an undiagnosed disease, depicted here in purple, and parents caring for a typically developing child, which we show here in teal. So caregiver burden captures the stress and strain associated with the caregiving role, while caregiver distress measures the extent to which negative thoughts and feelings about caregiving interfere with the caregiver's life. So, as expected, we found that the parents caring for children with a chronic illness, that is, the inherited metabolic conditions and undiagnosed diseases, reported significantly higher levels of both caregiver burden and caregiver distress relative to the parents of typically developing children. So then our next research question was, does the association between caregiver burden, caregiver distress, and mental health vary across these caregiving contexts? And as a marker of mental health, I was specifically interested in looking at depressive symptomology. And so you would expect a positive relationship, right? Higher levels of caregiver burden and caregiver distress would be associated with greater depressive symptomology. And that's exactly what we found. However, somewhat surprisingly, we found that this association did not vary across caregiving contexts. In other words, the parents caring for chronically ill children were not more adversely affected by their overall higher levels of caregiver-related stress. So what that indicates to us is that these parents are utilizing some sort of coping strategies to deal with their stress levels. And in an effort to identify what these coping strategies might be, we've begun to look at the social relations of these caregivers with the hope that we might be able to leverage this really important and naturally occurring social resource to both buffer the stress and improve the health and well-being of the most vulnerable caregivers.